Greetings, I hope everybody is doing fantastic. All right, if you showed up, thank you, and come along for this trip to a idyllic, dreamlike setting where mushroom cities blossom in the distance, or bloom. Do mushrooms blossom or bloom? I'm not sure. Either way, they typically don't have cities in them. But through the power of our third eye, remote viewing, and Blender, we will try to create this sketch that I have up in the corner of the screen there. I had no intention of actually going this far to create this scene. It ended up sort of happening. I just kept pushing it a little further, thinking I was wasting time, energy, and effort, which I probably was, but that's neither here nor there. I went ahead and tried to create that sketch as I had initially envisioned it. And it was just a quick little something I jotted down. My original intentions were to just create that bug ship or that insectoid craft, that insect-like vehicle where I would just set it up in Blender and maybe set it up or get it ready for a 3D print. And what you're seeing here is way beyond anything I had ever intended. I just kept going with it though. But I'm creating this mushroom city and adding these flutes to it to try to give it an appearance of like a tree, almost like a cypress tree, mixed with that mushroom look. And on top of it, we will set a city. I don't actually go ahead and make the city. At some point, maybe I could, because that would be further fodder or more fodder for some cool animations or images. As it were, just working this to trying to emulate a random or a natural look to that mushroom stem or tree trunk stem with a mushroom on top, and a dome for it for our magical mystical city. And I already was trying to mess with some brush. There's some great tutorials on how to set up a facing brush or a 2D plane that faces the camera. Saves a lot of processing power. It's a simple 2D plane with a JPEG on there or a bitmap on it, texture map, and it will always face the camera, which is a cool little trick. Always something new to learn in Blender. And that is going to come in very helpful when I create the trees and the foliage and whatnot that end up being a very important part of the scene. However, the one thing I did have a problem with, I messed around with it a little bit, but I just didn't want to get too carried away with it because I was spending a lot of time on this already, was figuring out a way to have them blow in the breeze. But they're only single planes. I guess I would have had to subdivide the planes that represent the foliage quite a bit, and I didn't want to mess with it because it was going to choke the computer if I had even more geometry on there on that scatter, because then you're scattering that brush around to create the illusion of a thick dense forest, and more complicated geometry would have probably destroyed my computer. It was choking on this as it was, especially when I added in the reflection for the river, the little flowing river. Oh, but I spoke a little too soon here, so we'll get to that next. And that's our mushroom, and it's coming along pretty nice. I was thinking as I started doing this of some Roger Dean images, how he has that very simple, almost flat looking appearance of his skies and his backgrounds, but the foregrounds really kind of pop, and the very muted colors, and oftentimes a pastel look or color scheme. And that's really where I ended up heading or following that mindset as a compass needle when I was doing this. And this is all this texturing, actually not all of it, because you see I threw a little bit of noise on there to create a vein like look to it, but all this texturing was done in texture paint right within Blender. I'm relying more and more on that as I get the hang of it. It works so good. Just some subtle outlines and hints on our mushroom city structure, trunk, thingamabob, right? And all I did was scale those to different size, and it really gives you a great effect. I'm very pleased with the way that turned out. And those bushes are going to multiply significantly. It's just kind of getting us ready for what's to come. And we're going to get rid of this Minecraft river and make it a little more natural looking. And that's just going to be a placeholder for what we're going to do next. And then that landscape texture got a little complicated, and I don't know if that was responsible. I should have maybe baked it, but I just kept going with what it was. I didn't want to risk losing what I had with a bake. Although you're never really at risk of losing anything if you're smart enough to save chronically or set up your autosaves. Alright, there we go. We have a river, and our dreamlike landscape is on the way. I didn't want it static. I figured and this is where I really started to get carried away with the animation. I shouldn't even done an animation. I ended up letting it run for 2 days to just create this simple little thing. You'll see when it's all said and done with that reflection. The bump map on the reflection using cycles is what really chugged it out. And then here is some extra foliage or alien creature plants we'll throw in there just for good measure to have some variety of scatter on there. It'll only add to that dreamlike vision that I'm shooting for. Real quick, the detail doesn't need to be perfect because there's going to be a scatter of these things all over the place, and they'll be probably far enough away where you won't notice it. And there we go. See, I like the way that looks right there, even without the render. It has a very painterly feel to it. It doesn't look 3D at all within the viewport renderer. And we're going to start working on the craft, the vessel here. And I think the hardest part with this whole thing was just coming up with that texture. I wanted a shiny steel texture, or not like necessarily chrome, but a polished steel, or freshly new looking steel, with some areas where it wasn't completely reflective, and it turned out fantastic. I was really pleased with that, honestly. After struggling with what are those material nodes for a while, and I was trying different reflection patterns on there, and that's why I had that stained glass window to give it a more colorful pop. And I ended up with a butterfly and threw that on there as the image texture for the color, and it gave it that great almost insect looking pattern. I mean, I guess the butterfly is technically an insect, right? But there you go. So this is our final render. Let's see what we got. Alright, if you stuck around this long, I greatly appreciate it. I had a lot of fun doing this little project, and I will be doing some more, so if you feel so inclined, stop by again. Thanks again. Bye.